run the clock. Super 16, it's the cream of the crop. College football time of year, don't stop. With
You're adding this guy.
Just another go dome with the courage, heart, skill, and will. Bringing you the best 16. Serving up a plate for the football fiends. Ranking the best 16 college teams. Football fans, it's the show of your dreams.
Ain't no bias, Chris Zorich ranking truth. Traded in the golden helmet in the past for a suit. With the tape, never lies, college ball, he's a stoop. Ranking the top 16, not the top 32.
I don't mean to cut you off like a Zorich jersey, but you ain't really grinding unless the jersey dirty. Hit the running back like a Mack truck behind the 30-yard line. It's game time, my team Roddy off the sideline.
You look at Chris like this with a fact checklist. Going over college teams like a 50 scientist. Steve streaking from his head like in his playing days. Super 16 polls on his show straight away.
It's the FBS, the best of the best from the ACC to the SEC. Pac-12, Big 10, Mountain West, Sun Belt, and the Big 12. Open your eyelids, who the best like the clock? Super 16 is the cream of the crop. College football time of year, don't stop. With Christopher Zorich, just another go dome with the courage, heart, skill, and will. Bringing you the best 16. Serving up a plate for the football fiends. Breaking the best 16 college teams. Football fans, it's the show of your dreams.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 2 of the Super 16 poll show with myself, Chris Zorich, and my sidekick, Phil, who you might not be able to see yet. He had a really depressing day. It was rough on him. Phil, you want to jump in here for a sec, man?
Oh, my God, Chris. I've run out of tissues.
Now, here's the thing. I played, and I think he had a harder time last night than I did. So that's just, I know he's he's mourning now, but we promised to have a good show today.
Oh, it's been a morning. I don't know if you liked freestyle music back in the day, like Stevie B.
Sure.
Remember them? It was Silent Morning. I just remember that song. It was like, that was my drive into work. It was like, oh my God. It was.
And for those folks who might not have heard his rant last night, I had a chance to watch it on Bears Hour Live. It was intense.
Thank you, Chris. I got a lot of DMs and emails thanking me for the rant. So when it comes from you, though, I know I've made it. So I appreciate it.
Are you okay now for the show? Are you okay to do the show now?
I'm going to be here doing the show with my guy, Chris Zorich. They needed you. They could have used you all over the field.
They needed me, and I think the rest of the 85 Bears. Are you kidding me? It was ugly. It was rough. It was rough.
It was definitely rough, but it was expected from me. My wife reminded me that she's like, you said this was going to happen. So why are you so upset? I go, because I wanted it not to happen.
There you go. There you go.
Anyway.
You're like a weatherman. You know, You hope it's not going to be that bad.
Exactly. I was handling the storm, the quiet storm.
There you go.
But I'm excited about you tonight. College football, man, though.
Are you kidding me? It was another great week. We had a chance to see some great teams. We had a chance to see some not so great teams perform, which I cannot wait to get into because I've been kind of promoting the fact that I'm going to have a chance to talk about my lovely Irish.
Yes.
And how disappointed I am in them. So,
well, I'm going to push the buttons. We also have my girl working the chat, Cherie from the TTNL network, jumping in tonight too. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Got a lot of fans lining up for this to see the Super 16 poll show.
And I'm excited to take questions this time. Last time I was a little nervous.
Yeah.
That was one of the comments from my producer last week was I was hoping and praying that the power wasn't going to go out, and I wasn't taking a look at the questions. So for now, I will look at the questions. Thank you very much, Phil, for pointing that out.
No problem. I'm here. I'm always here for you.
Thank you. You are like my security blanket. All right, folks. So for the folks who are turning in for the first time, the Super 16 poll was created about 2013 by the Football Writers Association of America and also the National Football Foundation. And those folks are in charge of the College Football Hall of Fame. I was fortunate enough to be inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. So that's kind of how I got into it. So each week during the football season, we submit our ballots to the Super 16 folks, and they tabulate it, and they come out with a poll that's comes out every Sunday. However, our show's on Monday, but I have a chance to kind of go in depth on my picks. So let's do this. My first pick at number 16, Auburn.
Number 16, Auburn.
All right, so this is kind of a new one. They were unranked in my poll kind of coming into this. They beat Alabama State 62-0, Akron 60-10. A lot of folks are kind of like, hey, why are you putting them in? I mean, anybody that's scoring over 120 points in 2 games deserves to be in there. Plus, they're in the they're in the SEC, so they're going to have a chance to kind of get their act together when they're going to play better teams. Interestingly enough, though, they have a good game coming up at number 12, Penn State, next week. So that's going to be good. And we obviously all love Bo Nix. He's a great competitor, great quarterback. I think he was born and bred to actually be at Auburn. So it's going to be an exciting game. We are excited that they're not actually what was it? I forgot who it was. I forgot their running back, but he made a comment after the game that was kind of really, really impressive. But again, this is our 16th pick, Auburn, and it's going to be one of the big games against number 12, Penn State. So that was 16. So our next team at number 15 is UCLA.
Number 15, UCLA.
All right, so now folks are talking about why UCLA, right? Well, first of all, Chip Kelly is a good coach. He needs this. What year is this for him? I think it's his 4th year. They actually beat an impressive LSU team. LSU is what, two years removed from a national championship, 2 or 3, 19? Yeah, well, it depends what we're talking about. But they are impressive. I like the quarterback. He had 260 yards in this game. The only thing I'm not impressed with is their upcoming game, the scheduling. But, right now, you're talking about going into game 3. These are preseason games for these colleges, right? Very few schools are going out there and playing true competitors, right? True opponents. So we're seeing some teams, even Alabama. Hell, they played Mercer last week, right? But the idea is to play maybe 1 big game, 2 big games, get a preseason game in there, and then do like what Saban does at Alabama. They actually put, I think it's a weak opponent the week before the SEC tournament. So that's really impressive. So I do like UCLA at 15. So our next team will be number 14, Stanford.
Number 14, Stanford.
Now, this is a huge one because I had USC ranked number 11, and they demolished USC, which obviously it's in the conference. I'm really impressed with them. David Shaw, the head coach, needs to have a successful year. Gone are the days when he was kind of ranked in the top 10. So he's going to need some help. And I think beating a good USC team is really going to help him out. I was a little nervous because they lost their first game, which I really wasn't impressed with. And then all of a sudden they turn around and beat an 11th ranked USC team. So literally, this is going to put them on the map for me. And until they show me differently, I'm not going to take them out. And what's also impressive is the academic stuff. I know this is a football show, but when you talk about your academic institutions, Vanderbilt, Stanford, Notre Dame, Northwestern, and when they do well against even like an SC, it's really impressive. So the idea of handling strict, great academics and also being able to beat a top 16 opponent, I think is impressive. So that's why they deserve to be at 14 in my poll. It's going to be like an academic bowl for them next week because they are going to be playing Vanderbilt. So it's more kind of meeting of the minds, I guess. So that's my 14th pick. At 13, we have Virginia Tech.
Hold up, Chris. Did
Yes,
you
sir.
USC fired their head coach today?
I did not even know that. I'm sitting here studying and getting ready for my show. Thank you for that hot tip. Apparently we're not breaking it.
It's just breaking right now. So Tom
Really?
Boson, one of our patrons and big TTNL heads, is telling us USC has fired their head coach today after that loss, apparently.
Whoa, that's
Cherie,
huge.
Can you check that to make sure it's not like a fake Adam Schefter? But that is huge, Chris.
Who's the AD at SC now? I'm not sure. I mean,
who was that broadcaster?
It was Pat Hayden. He's gone now.
He's gone.
I think the athletic director, if I'm not mistaken, is it Bowen? No. Matt Bond.
Let me look it up for you. But apparently it is true. USC fires head coach.
Well, that's not saying, hey, that's what happens when you lose.
Clay Helton has been fired after they lost. we can't even fire Matt Nagy. They can fire athletic director Mike Bond.
Yes, Mike Bond. Okay, here's the crazy thing.
Bohn.
Check this out. You know where he came from?
I'm gonna guess Notre Dame.
Cincinnati.
Oh, really?
Who's at Cincinnati?
Kelly, Coach Kelly.
Luke Fickell is at Cincinnati.
Okay. You think
Coach Kelly's at Notre Dame?
Well, I thought they had a connection with Kelly. My bad.
Okay, I'm just letting you know. So Luke Fickell,
yes,
probably may not finish the season. I mean, obviously you can't do that. Cincinnati's ranked high.
Yeah,
but that's really interesting. So who knows? Maybe the season's over. Luke Fickell might be wearing the maroon and gold.
Well, what are the whys, Chris? What are the whys?
Wow. Okay. I mean, I understand we are on the Tape Never Lies network, which is all about the Bears, but Super 16 poll show, baby. All right. So number 13, we have Virginia Tech.
Number 13, Virginia Tech.
They moved up 3 spots. They beat Middle Tennessee 35-14. I think they're still riding that momentum from beating North Carolina. I mean, at this point, that's really kind of their claim to fame, right? Because without that win, they would be unranked. They wouldn't be on anyone's poll. So it's just really going to be interesting. There aren't that many good teams in the ACC. Phil, I want to talk to you about this. Do you remember a couple of years ago, Dabo made a comment about him being the best team in the ACC, and he wasn't getting a lot of love, right? In the polls because all the teams were weak.
Right. As a coach, especially in a sport that limits their playoffs, and then all of a sudden is almost like the QBR rating or, how you get these extra draft picks in the NFL. There's some mathematical equation that no one can understand on how people or these colleges are getting into the playoffs. So, of course, like when you see an undefeated Boise State or an undefeated, Pac-10 team, and then there's 2-3 undefeated SEC teams, if that's possible, 2 undefeated SEC teams, then of course the bias or the level of competition is going to go towards them. So it's almost like you have to have these big game matchups on your schedule in order to get that ticket punched for you to get into the big dance. And it's something I think that has plagued college football for years. I think the easy solution, obviously this will be another Super 16 poll show with Chris Zorich conversation, because I believe they need to do something about the playoff system and how they go about doing it. But back to the point, the question, Dabo came out and was keeping it 100, as we say. He was saying, hey, we need our league to be better in order for us to get the recognition that we deserve and not just showcase our talent when it comes to being in the playoffs. So it does put you at a disadvantage if your league is not strong.
Well, and here's the thing, right? I mean, I think that the idea of Clemson being so good, I'm sure their AD is getting phone calls, right, from Big 12, from other teams saying, hey, what about it? Now, I kind of think Clemson might be the belle of the ball. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how many phone calls they're taking.
Well, Richard Gordon, great point there, was saying, Florida State every now and then, like when we were young, Florida State, right. I mean, forget about it. I know you played with Carl Simpson there, but the reality was Florida State was perennially, how do you say it? Perennially, however you say it, in that showcase to get to the national championship.
Right.
Clemson was not back then. So again, these programs are built around these college coaches, and it seems like Saban's coaching tree has a huge effect on it. But again, North Carolina, who else is in there? NC State. They've never battled.
Go down the list, right? Exactly.
Yeah,
and then that's what I think. What's unfair is that Dabo's going out there playing each week. He can't help his opponent. He can't help that he's going to be the belle of the ball.
Right. He's every opponent's Super Bowl, but at the same time, it's a negative for him too, because you have to win by a certain margin too.
Yes, that is
Chris
very true.
Zorich will knock you down some slots if you don't.
Yes, I will.
If you don't win,
right.
You
we actually have our next team actually went up to, that's Penn State at number 12.
Number 12, Penn State.
Okay, so this is kind of interesting. They actually beat a MAC school, Ball State, 44-13. Not taking anything away from a MAC school. They wound up getting a nice payday, probably over $1 million, which they need to support their athletic department. Penn State needed a game to prepare, because I mentioned before, they're playing Auburn next week. Now, the thing is, they're going to be playing at Penn State, and I mentioned this in my last show. It sucks playing at Happy Valley, right? Because not only, I mean, they didn't have the whiteout back when I was there, when I was in school, but having to travel there, it was ridiculous. You had to take like 2 prop planes, and it was crazy because all the linemen were like sitting together. It was really bizarre. I thought I was going to die the 2 times I went to Penn State. It was terrible, and their locker rooms are tiny. So I think it's going to be an interesting game, and their wideouts are great, are absolutely phenomenal, and you would want to be in that type of environment. And I think there's a better team. I think it's going to be hard to say. I mean, you've had Auburn has had a chance to get a lot of players in games, which I think is really crucial. Having a chance to get some non-starters in the game, so they can have that experience, which they've been able to do. Penn State probably done it not as much as Auburn, but I think it's going to be a really good game. This idea of kind of Bo Nix, he's a junior now, probably finished after this year, but he's already put up 5,000 yards. So not this season, obviously, but in his career at Auburn. So I think it's going to be a really tough game. So that's a really good game to look out for. Our next opponent, let me see if I can get one of those blood pressure machines in here. Number 11, Notre Dame.
Number 11, Notre Dame.
Phil, this one hurts, man. This one just hurts. I'm in pain. I am just in pain. I put them at 11, and they dropped 4 spots, man. You cannot go into – it cannot be a minute, 35 seconds left, and you are down 5 points to Toledo. They're in the MAC. Again, love the MAC. Got all respect for the MAC. But Notre Dame should not – wait, who did it? Auburn played Akron. They put 60 on a MAC school.
Right.
It's tough, man. It is.
I'm ready to hire the Toledo coach with the Bears. He got his team prepared. I'll tell you that.
Here's the highlight of the game for me.
Mm-hmm.
When the trainer popped Jack Cohen's dislocated finger back in place and he went back in. That's the competitor that I want. I want a guy like that. He ran up to the sideline, didn't even take a timeout, did the finger, ran back in. I think he threw a touchdown after that, actually.
He did. The game winner to the big tight end.
That's the type of competitor I want. Now, we need a whole bunch of guys on that team. Now, again, what's going on, right? I think we have an issue of a very young offensive line. You have an issue of, and again, I don't, maybe it was the game plan going into it, but why don't you throw the freshman quarterback in there? And I think that was, maybe Kelly thought that, hey, we're going to be up by 2-3 touchdowns. I'll throw him in there and get him some experience. And all of a sudden he comes in. Did he do well? Yes, he did well. But what was the purpose?
Right. I don't get it. Maybe he was looking for a spark, but we talked about this kid last week and how impressive we were impressed with him because of the momentum and everything this kid brought to the table in Florida State. So the momentum had switched, but Cone was able to overcome it and step up and perform in the way he did. And then again, as you said eloquently, the trainer popping that out and showing that competitive spirit. I'm serious. I was
excited, man. That was the highlight of the game for me.
That's why I love college football. And I know this is so important for a lot of people. Obviously, Notre Dame fans, it's unfortunate, I should say, based on what Dabo and everything you were talking about, that you have to beat these teams a certain way and you just can't appreciate, hey, some people are going to rise up and play the games of their life. And you can't get everything you want from a scoreboard. At the end of the day, there were so many things that went on in that game that Notre Dame, a football team needs to improve on. Just like you, when your national championship run, I'm sure there was games where you guys got reamed. You won.
Absolutely.
You won, but there was so much to take away and learn from in order to propel you to win in the biggest of games.
Sure. And Phil, and here's the thing. I mean, I went back to look at our scores because I didn't want to just dog Notre Dame and, hey, we were perfect. We beat Navy 21-7. Okay. I mean, that wasn't a blowout. That wasn't 60-0.
Right.
But I think there has to be a balance, right? I mean, kind of what Tom, you just threw up there. Tom was talking about our D. Our D needs work, right? Well, yeah. I agree. And I'm a huge, huge Marcus Freeman fan. I mean, he was on my podcast. We had a great time. But I think Tom's right. I mean, we have to figure out what's going to work best. Now, to Marcus's point, I mean, I'm sure he's doing the same thing, right? And we talked about this before. In the first game, there must have been something that he saw in the offense that he needed 3 down linemen rushing, right? Because everybody's like, why we got 3 down linemen rushing, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to question a defensive coordinator's game plan when he has all that information in front of him. Now, the challenge is, what do you do if that's not working? That's the thing. Right? That's the thing. You have to go there. You have to do something, put players in there that are going to excel.
Exactly. And make the right adjustments. There's times that you are in a game as a coach and you've prepared, you've scouted, but they do things differently than you've prepared for.
Sure. Absolutely.
It's your job. It's not the kid. The kid doesn't know.
Right.
We
have no idea. The player has no
exactly.
idea.
Now we're going to play 4-man front. We got to go switch it up to a 4-4, and you're coaching your butt off at halftime to adjust, to stop them. I mean, that is the game within the game. That separates the men from the boys when it comes to the coaching side. But
sure. And I think they'll have a chance to redeem themselves when they play Purdue. But again, I mean, I'm trying to keep it 100, right? I mean, yes. I want to be honest with myself and our fans listening and watching. Mm-hmm. But this is the second game in a row. I mean, they weren't supposed to be in the game against Florida State, right? Florida State's unranked. I had Notre Dame 5.
Right.
And they barely got out of that game. And so now all of a sudden, we're playing. And again, I'm not saying anything from Toledo. If Toledo would have won, that guy would have been USC coach. Okay, I mean, he would have been the bell. I mean, it would have been great. It would have been up there with the Appalachian State and Michigan game, right? Because that's the magnitude of how important these games are for Notre Dame. So it hurts.
Quick, one question down there at the bottom. Do you remember a game where your Lou Holtz or any coach adjusted at halftime?
Oh, absolutely. You have every game. Every game. I mean, Tom, that's a great point. You have an understanding of what the game plan is supposed to be. You're going to watch all the film from like the last 15 years, which coaches actually do, that you wouldn't be surprised how far they go back. And if a coach was at another program that had another different philosophy, they'd watch that coach. It's crazy. That's why I could never be a coach. But yes, absolutely right. I mean, and that's the difference between a good coach and a great coach, right? Is that great coach is going to make the adjustments at halftime. They're going to go out there and make sure that the offense or the defense that they wanted to run, they have to adjust. And that's what makes the difference between winning teams and losing teams. As I said, I'm going to have a great test against Purdue, but a little nervous. And again, my favorite play of the game was with the quarterback going there and getting his knuckle unpopped. So that was a good one. All right, so now we're going to be in our top 10. Top 10, we have number 10, Iowa.
Number 10, Iowa.
These guys moved up 2 spots, and interestingly enough, they had a great game against Iowa State. They won the Cy-Hawk Trophy, which we were having trouble with. We were having a little trouble with last time, but we actually found out what it was. Really interesting game. Great interstate game. However, I didn't realize how lopsided the scores were, the records were for Iowa demolishing Iowa State, right? I mean, I had no idea. And this is the first time that they actually played when they were ranked too. I mean, it was a huge game. College Game Day was there. Great special on a young man who is a huge Iowa State supporter. Nick Bassett, actually, was his name. And he forgot what disease he had, but he actually became friends with the coaches on the team, wound up getting his legs amputated, and promised himself, hey, I'm going to be there for that Iowa State game. And he was. And he wound up giving a great speech to the team. I mean, those are the stories that really excite me about college football, because you're still, at the end of the day, you're still talking about young 18-year-old kids. So that's really important. kind of feel bad that Iowa State was not able to win, but Iowa put a great game plan together. Quarterback didn't do all that great, but the defense played really well. They held their All-American running back to almost 90 yards. So that was really impressive. It's going to be interesting because now their next game, again, these are one of these prep games, one of these preseason games. We'll be playing Penn State. So that's really not that impressive. But, again, it's going to be something that, yes, Bullet's talking about Iowa State's quarterback having 3 picks. That and also Iowa's defense turned the ball over, I think, 4 times or 3 times. That's huge. I mean, anytime you have that many turnovers, it's really hard to kind of get out of that. Thank you very much, Robert. I do appreciate that. I'm trying, man. This is our second show. All right. So we got number 9, Oklahoma.
Number 9, Oklahoma.
Okay, now my guys give me a lot of crap for this because I have Oklahoma at number 9, right? A lot of other polls, and I know ESPN has them, I think, top 5. I haven't forgot about the Tulane game. Apparently, everybody chooses to not think about that game. And then also, you got Western Carolina. They put up 73. They're supposed to put up 73, right? I mean, so how is it now that Oklahoma is in the top 5? In my rankings, they haven't moved because I haven't seen anything, right? I mean, they barely got through a Tulsa team, a Tulane team that really had every odd situation happen to them. Hurricanes, they had to play at Oklahoma. Oklahoma was kind enough to paint their logo on the field. It was supposed to be a game at Tulane. All these odds were against them, and they almost won the game. So I'm still questioning some things, but as a whole, can they get better? Yes, they're putting up 73 points on a team. Yeah, I'm sure they are. I'm a huge Spencer Rattler fan. He had about 250 yards this game. I just think it's important that they have a chance to really play as many people as they can if they're going to be destroying teams like this. Yes, it would be interesting enough. I was going to say that because their next opponent coming up is in Nebraska, so they are going to be going into the Big 12 conference. However, interestingly enough, in a couple of years, they'll be playing in the SEC conference, so we're going to have a chance to see how good Oklahoma really is. At number 8, we have Cincinnati.
Number 8, Cincinnati.
Okay, now we had a chance to kind of talk about this a little bit. They actually stayed put as well. They beat Murray State 42-7. If you beat a team you're supposed to beat, I'm not going to bump you up, right? I mean, it's just not fair because, I mean, you're not recruiting the same type of players as Murray State is. So I assume that you're going to win. So you're not going to be rewarded for throwing up 42 on a team that you're supposed to beat. That being said, their quarterback Ritter had almost 250 yards. Always looking at the quarterback play. As much as I hate to say it, I'm obviously a defensive lineman. Most important position on the team is the quarterback. Phil, you're a coach. How do you feel about that?
Chris, I mean, it is the most important position in all of sports. It really is. And if you don't have one, you're probably going to struggle. I know we always will bring it back, at TTNL to the Bears, but you played on all those teams with how many different quarterbacks, and it essentially hamstrung you until Eric Kramer came in there, and then he was gone, and then you're rotating again. In the history, it is what it is. It just coincides with the lack of Super Bowl championships. And same thing in college football. It's the same thing. You can see some teams, I don't remember Oklahoma State's quarterback when Barry and Thurman Thomas were there.
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Back then you can get away with that. But I think as you move forward in this spread game, you really have to have that dynamic signal caller and passer. And really that's where they are in football now. Even on the high school level, you have to have somebody.
Yeah.
Now more so than ever, you can't get away with the great back.
Well, and here's the thing. Although Ritter did play well, and again, 42-7, you're supposed to play well, right?
Right.
Now, they had a lot of backups play, which, again, is great. Their big test is going to be in a couple of weeks against Notre Dame, right? And I say this kind of haphazardly on the fence here, but before I thought this was going to be a big game, a Super Bowl type game for Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
It might be reversed now, right? Notre Dame might need this game to establish themselves again, which they shouldn't be in that position, right? Now, Cincinnati's going to be playing Indiana next week. I think it's going to be a good game, but outside of it, this is really Notre Dame is really going to be Cincinnati's biggest test, and this will be their foray into the Big 12, right?
Right.
They can show that they can beat a team like Notre Dame, and why not? So I'm sure when they scheduled this several years ago, they had no idea what was going on, which is why Cincinnati is going to be at Notre Dame Stadium. Like, yeah, sure, pay us $1 million, we'll be more than happy. But now the tables are kind of reversed.
Right.
And now Notre Dame is going to need this game to kind of establish themselves. So I think that's really interesting. Even though a lot of my guys, my teammates are going to hate me for talking like this, but I'm trying to keep it 100. I'm trying to keep it real because, this not only this is what the show is about, but this is honesty, right? This is kind of your motto, the tape never lies. We've all seen the same games.
Right.
Notre Dame is not putting up, and again, I hate to go back to talk a broken record, but Auburn puts up 60 points on a MAC school. And Auburn's my 16th team.
Right. No, I love, that's what I wanted to pop in before, but you were on a great roll and say the thing that I really like about this show and you and your poll and everything, the NFF and the National Football Writers Association of America, it's a lot of words, all of that is that you're able to, I feel like the AP, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and some of these other polls are projecting what they want to see happen based on where they know these teams are going to go.
Sure.
So instead of taking each game, each matchup like you are doing and say, wait a second now, here's this. Notre Dame should have beaten Toledo by this, so I got to move them down. I like that. I like that you moved Oklahoma back.
It's kind of how I feel, though. And then, I don't want to talk disparagingly about other polls, but, how do you have Oklahoma in your top five? Are they a good team? Absolutely, are they a good team? But they literally had the quarterback from Tulane. Had he been like 6'8", he would probably got the first down,
right?
Because they wound up kicking an onside kick. They recovered it. Come on, they had all the momentum. So then this is a totally different conversation, right? Because for those folks now, Oklahoma would be, maybe top 10, maybe top 12 or something. But
right.
Again, I like what we're doing here is because we're kind of like that everyman, right? We're kind of the underdog guy. We're the guy who's going to go out there and work hard. So,
exactly.
When I do these teams, I really think about why I'm choosing these teams. It's not just because a team was good. I'm giving you reasons why I'm picking them. You don't have to agree with them, which I'm sure folks might not agree with them, but I'm telling you why I'm picking them.
I like that, and I've seen some. Iowa should be higher. Where's Michigan? there's questions these people are having.
Sure.
And I think that's the healthy debate. That's why I love college football.
Absolutely.
And I love the fact that you're doing this from your perspective. And let me be honest and transparent. I had a lot of people, well, is Chris going to be biased towards Notre Dame? That thing. And he's obviously being.
I think I'm harder on Notre Dame because I know the level of expectation. Like, I want them to be like number one in the country, right? I mean, I want them to be competing for national championships every week, but the perform. I mean, again,
you're going on the performance. Let me just be honest for Chris. He's texted me throughout the game like, "Oh my God." Now I was at a birthday party watching the game on Peacock on my phone, and I'm seeing Chris. I'm like, this is going.
Thank you, NBC. Thanks.
I was happy. I could, ESPN and NBC being able to stream these things. Back in the day, you were a dad. Forget about it. You had to go to that kid's birthday party. You were effed unless there was a bar there or something. But Chuck E. Cheese ain't playing the freaking Notre Dame game here in Connecticut. I'll tell you that. But the reality is you can keep along with it. And I can testify. You know me, I'd break Chris's chops. But he is thorough in his analysis and his being, completely unbiased. That's what I love about it, and it's fun.
And here's the thing: I mean,
Shane and I are hard on you,
right? Oh, please, yes, you are. You're great coaches for me. I mean, and by any means, am I perfect? These are my ideas, right? This is what I feel as though I'm sitting at home in my garage watching my TVs, right?
Yep.
And if a team doesn't do well, guess what? They're not going to be rewarded.
Exactly.
I mean, I just because, and again, I mean, I hate to kind of say if this happens, then that might happen. But again, if the and I wish I knew the quarterback's name for Tulane, but had he made the first down, they had the momentum. They just recovered an onside kick. They were in their territory. They were in Oklahoma's territory. I mean, boom! All of a sudden, we're not having this conversation about Oklahoma. But all right, so that was my rant. However,
I like
we should take a couple seconds talking about the Big 12, right? Adding Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, and UCF.
University of Central Florida.
Yes, sir. Which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All from the same conference except for BYU. But a couple years ago, Cincinnati, these teams were trying their hardest to get to a Power 5 team, and no one was talking to them.
Exactly.
Right? Now, all of a sudden, the SEC makes some moves and grabs the two. So how do you, Phil, you and I talked about this a long time ago, how do we take, or how does the SEC take Texas and Oklahoma, and as the Big 12, you replace them with Cincinnati, Houston, and Central Florida?
Yeah, you're taking average teams and replacing them with teams historically. Now, they haven't been great in the past, but I know Oklahoma has had their moments there with Stoops.
No, but I'm talking about the following. I'm talking about everything that goes with it. I mean, Texas, they have their own. They have the Longhorn Network.
Oh my God.
No one has that.
Yeah.
Right? So you're taking two of the top 5 programs in the country.
Yes.
And you're replacing them with teams that folks don't even know about.
BYU is, late night football here on the East Coast. So it's in that, what division are they in? They're in the WAC? What are
BYU, they're actually independent. They were independent.
They were independent. Okay. So you got them. Then Houston, I mean, they're just an afterthought. That's a college basketball school in thought until Andre Ware, he even won the Heisman, if you remember him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That was a year. I was alive then. I was in college.
I know you were, but people forget Andre Ware, former Lion. But anyway, those schools aren't known for football, even though they come out of Texas. That's like SMU. These schools are kind of like, okay, average schools. UCF had that moment there, but even in their undefeated, time. They were overlooked.
Sure. And how about this? If you're the commissioner of the Big 12, pick up the phone, call the Notre Dame, call the Clemson.
Yeah.
I mean, and maybe those things happened, right? And these were the best teams, because I'm assuming these 4 teams are the best teams that the conference commissioner could grab, right? I'm assuming, because if Notre Dame's still on the table, if Clemson is still on the table, I mean, if these types of schools are still on the table and you didn't make that effort, then kind of shame on you, you know?
I agree. I really want to ask you real quick. I know it's not from the chat, but do you ever see Notre Dame getting in a division, getting in a conference, getting out of the independents?
You know, it's going to have, I mean, do I want them to? No. I selfishly, and this is what I tell folks who ask.
Yeah, I don't get it, though. Why?
If you had the chance to be independent, would you? Everybody says yes, because you want the freedom to play anybody you want. You want to be able to have the diversity schedule of playing in USC, a Stanford, a Navy, some teams in the SEC. You want to play some teams that you're already going to be playing in the ACC. You want to play some Big Ten teams. I mean, I love the fact that we've been independent for so long, and we're playing teams around the country. I mean, I had a chance to play Navy, Air Force, USC. I mean, I had such a diverse scheduling during my 4 years there that was great. And so that's the player talking to me, right? The administrator now, as a former athletic director, is saying, well, wait a minute, I might be kind of getting boxed out here. We already have this relationship with the ACC. If these teams decide to say, hey, we're only going to play conference opponents, where's Notre Dame going to be? Because at the end of the day, Notre Dame is still a team that guys or that schools really don't want to play if they don't have to, right? Because if you want to flick the schedule, you want to go through your conference, you want to roll in your conference, you don't want any other teams that are going to upset you, like a Notre Dame, right? Because then you aren't going to make the college football playoffs, right? Which that's what every school's looking at right now. So I think that the administration, they're going to have to be thinking, hey, where is this going? Will these conferences now? Jack Swarbrick has done a great adjusting, having a chance to kind of have a seat at the table, talking with these teams, talking with these conferences, and finding out where Notre Dame was going to land. The same thing he did with college football playoff folks. Same thing. This is some of the ghosts, but the idea of having your own network, which NBC does, even though the whole kind of Peacock fiasco, I mean, I kind of had to set my internet a couple more times while I was watching it because it would go out, and I didn't want to watch streaming football on TV. It kind of sucked, but this is my opinion. The idea of having your own network is important too. So that's also playing a factor in it. And now if NBC says, hey, we're out, now Notre Dame might be in a situation where they might be trying to make some phone calls. So, but very good
interesting stuff. I think we got to talk about it on another show because I have so many more questions to push back, but I don't want to keep the conversation going there because
come on, man. This is the Super 16 poll show, and we're on number 7, Texas A&M.
Number 7, Texas A&M.
Now, these guys going down 2 spots. I mean, we went on a rant before on kind of how we pick these teams, but again, I'm not going to reward a team who beats a team they're supposed to beat. Now, granted, their starting quarterback Hayes King actually got knocked out of the game, and he might be out 4 to 7 weeks. They're not sure. He may not even come back this season. But being able to overcome that was good. But they went down 2 spots because they only beat Colorado by 3 points. The final was 10-7. But again, I mean, you're in the SEC. You're ranked in the top 10. You're supposed to demolish teams that are not ranked. And again, I mean, second game of the year, quarterback goes out. There's a lot that went on in that game. But at the end of the day, you have to show me that you belong in the top 10, top 5. And they were 5. They went down to 7. So the one thing I do want to comment on is the second team quarterback. Zach had a chance to come in and put up 180 yards, which I thought was great. And it was interesting because now they'll have a chance to kind of do all of the things that they need to do to prepare for the next one, which is New Mexico. But here's the thing: if your quarterback is going to go out, then you want your second team guy in there. He went in there. He threw up 180 yards. More importantly, he's going to take all the reps during this week of practice. They're going to play New Mexico State, which they should demolish. So that's good. But more importantly, now Zach is going to have game time preparation, right? He's going to have that experience of being game. So I think that's tremendously important that your quarterback is going to kind of have a preseason game before he goes on to play folks in the SEC, which definitely needs to happen. Number 6, Ohio State.
Number 6, Ohio State.
Now, these guys went down 3 spots. This was probably one of the best games. Phil, you want to jump in here because I probably enjoyed this game more than Clemson and Georgia 2 weeks ago.
Really?
It was exciting, man. It was. I mean, the passes were thrown, and here's the thing. In you know what? I'm going to save this because I want to talk about Oregon. So when we come back, I want to talk about them both. But I do want to point out that C.J. Stroud, who is a freshman, by the way, had 484 yards. In 2 games, he has almost 400 yards. So that's really impressive. But I'm going to save all the comments until we get to Oregon.
Yeah, the running back to go in there and do what they did, and that Oregon defense. I mean, I wasn't expecting their defense.
They were out 2 guys.
Once I saw that,
everybody.
I mean, everybody must have jumped on that line. You know what I'm saying?
No one thought they were going to be
they came to play, and that they were physical. Their running game was very tough, and as you said, the quarterback it wasn't bigger than him. So that was an amazing football game, man, especially to go there and be able to do that in their house.
Amazing. So that's why I can't wait to talk about it some more when we get to Oregon. So number 5, Florida.
Number 5, Florida.
So they moved up 1 spot. Wasn't really impressed with the USF victory, 42-20. But once again, they're supposed to win games like this. This is a interstate rivalry, which those are important to play. But it's hard because of the teams who are 1, 2, 3, and 4, putting them 5 and having kind of Ohio State dropping Ohio State to 6 was really kind of tough because even though Ohio State lost, they're not going to drop that far because they were actually beaten by a ranked team. So it's really hard. And as I said before, Florida not trying to award a team for beating someone they should beat, but now it was a numbers game because I obviously wanted to put Oregon ahead of Ohio State, which obviously they deserve. But there weren't that many teams. I mean, there's only 4 other teams up there. So that's the reason why Florida's at 5. But I think it's going to be interesting, though, because in 2 weeks, All right. It's interesting because their next opponent, Florida, is going to be Alabama. So it's hard because when you're playing USF, and you're thinking about Alabama, that's hard, right? Because of course they're trying to put in game plan for Alabama. They're trying to gain a couple extra days because USF's next opponent is Florida A&M. So it's not even fair, right? So for USF, this was kind of their bowl game, having a chance to play against a top-ranked Florida team. And Florida was looking at this as, let's go ahead and play this team, but oh, by the way, we have Alabama in the week. So really hard, and I'm glad they had a chance to put up some points. Folks had some experience. Quarterback did okay, but the true test is going to be next week against Alabama. Number 4, Oregon.
Number 4, Oregon.
Now we got a chance to talk, right? So they move up 6 spots to number 4. And this is biggest jump of the week, deservingly so. Playing a good Ohio State team at the Horseshoe. No one thought they were going to win. No one gave them the confidence. Thibodeau was out. Who else? Flo was out. Phil, this is kind of, these are one of these games where you wish you could be a part of, right? Because, you want that experience. You want to be able to say 10, 15 years later, hey, I played in that game, or hey, I went to that game. Because, I think this is one of the best college games, obviously, so far. But in a couple years, you had a true underdog in Oregon going to not only a hostile environment, but an environment where I'm not sure the last time they lost at the Horseshoe, but more importantly, the revenge factor, right? They lost the national championship to Ohio State. Yes. And the last, I think, I forgot what year it was, but they got crushed before. So the idea of going into this game, all the odds were against them. And then all of a sudden, you had a chance to say, hey, let's show up and play. And without Thibodeau and Flo, that's the thing, right? Because when you don't have your stars on defense,
right,
what's going to happen? And again, now it wasn't a perfect game for Oregon, and I feel so bad for that corner. Hopefully you're watching, but he was looking at his wrist for the play, and Ohio State snapped the ball and dude ran in for touchdowns. So it was, they had to overcome that adversity, but they did. And I think that's what was so exciting about this game, is because you knew it was a David. I won't say David. They're in the Pac-12, they're a Power 5 team, but there's no way that Oregon was supposed to go in there and beat them, and then they did, fair and square.
Yeah, Oregon is the reason Vegas has gold ceilings, and nobody would have thought they would have had a chance there. And to be able to do that without their stars, without their, everything going against them, the money line, everything switching. Even I was like, oh my God, because you become so ordained, if you will, that Ohio State's going to take care of business like they always do.
Absolutely.
Especially, there's hope when you're like, okay, Oregon's a tough team, but then they lose their 2, and then you're like, oh, it's going to be one of those. Ohio State's going to, but there were some signs, as Ohio State had to turn around and get into the running game the week before to get back in and do what they needed to do. But Oregon, you can't take it away from them, even with what Chris is talking about. To have those players down, and then the adversity of the young kid doing that, and you're like, as a coach, you're like, oh my God. And to overcome that and have that offense be able to do and really just ball their fists up and attack Ohio State in their house, where I don't remember the last time they lost there either.
I'm sure hopefully one of the viewers can just kind of throw out the last time Ohio State. When was the last time Ohio State lost in the Horseshoe? You know?
Oh my God, it's been a while. I can't even remember that. I know they've beat Michigan's butt quite a few at the Horseshoe, so it is.
I have a buddy, Rick, who's watching. He's gonna love that because he's such a huge Michigan fan. So
yeah, they haven't.
Thank you for kind of throwing it out, Rick. I had nothing to do with that.
I know he was your teammate, Jim Harbaugh, but I love Jim Harbaugh, the coach, because I think he has that maniacal soul, that spirit that I believe is necessary to get players to victory and what have you. It's not just rah-rah, it's preparation as well.
Absolutely.
And accountability. That's why it's so disappointing, because I always feel like, bar the blocked punt at Michigan State, Michigan has had some unfortunate things that have happened to them, but they can never get past Ohio State. So for Oregon to do it in the fashion that they had, just for me, I'm speaking for me, this isn't my poll, but the reality is Ohio State at home chalk it up for a victory with down, and that's an underdog, as Chris is saying. I agree. I agree 100%.
And for Stroud to throw up almost 500 yards is again, but I want to talk about the other quarterback, Anthony Brown. This is a great competitor. He was actually at Boston College and threw up some great numbers there. Even broke. I think he still has some records that are still at Boston College, and it was so interesting to kind of watch him play and compete. And he was so calm. He's been there. He's been in those big games before, and it's so cool to kind of see a quarterback kind of react that way. Mm-hmm. And I just think that having a chance to have him back there, and this is really his first time being on this big of a stage. But he's been in the bright lights before. He's played against some good opponents. Having a chance to kind of compete the way he did, I think, was really special. And they're looking at their schedule, Phil. It's not really that hard. So, literally, we're going to see Oregon finally in the hunt, despite a loss. Obviously, it can't happen now, but they're going to be on the hunt now. Because if you're not in the top 7, top 8, as the season's going through for the college football playoff, you got no chance.
Exactly.
And depending on how they do, and how the other teams do as well, they might get knocked down, lower and lower. But which is interesting because. When was the last time a Pac-12 team was going to be ranked this high? So I think it's going to be interesting. But thanks to Sherry, she kind of got us the information.
Yeah.
And last time was 2017, which is a couple of years ago. So that's encouraging to see that.
It was Baker Mayfield and his Sooners.
There we go.
Back in the day. There you go. And UCLA is hot. So that'll be a great matchup. Oregon, UCLA at some point.
Yes, it will be. However, Oregon's next opponent, again, doing these preseason games, is Stony Brook. So get some reps.
I played against Stony Brook.
There you go, man. Hofstra, baby. That's Hofstra.
The Hofstra pride, baby.
Well, here's the thing. If you didn't play Oregon, I'm sure Stony Brook got a nice payout to go down to Beaver Stadium. Probably arranged about $1 million.
Stony Brook. I can't believe that. And I found out Long Island University is a Division I program as well. I don't even remember them.
Watch out, man. Watch out.
There you go. Look at Strong Island.
All right. And huge shout out to Mario Cristobal for doing so well against the Buckeyes. At number 3, we have Clemson.
Number 3, Clemson.
Not trying to reward a team. They went up to number 3. They were number 4, but really not impressed with their win. South Carolina State, again, supposed to win 49-3. My guy, Ucla, I jacked it up. I know I did. What was how did we say it last time?
Just call him DJ.
Well, it's not fair, man. Why don't you get it right?
I can't do it. I go back to Adewale Agunlie, and I can't get past that. So
anyway, he had 179. He had about 171 yards. I'm trying to find out what's going on. And he had more yards against Notre Dame last year than he has in 2 games already. So, it's the offensive line, play calling. Against Georgia, I mean, I kind of thought it was offensive line. So it's really going to be a tough game. But, again, the reason why they went up was because Ohio State lost. So it's not like I'm trying to reward teams for teams that they are going to demolish, right? Interestingly enough, we had a chance to talk about this before, about Clemson and Dabo in the ACC. The rankings now, I mean, they're going to go into their season, or excuse me, their conference, and again, go undefeated and have a chance to play the conference championship, and they'll be in the hunt as well. So again, is Clemson the belle of the ball this year? Did the commissioner from the Big 12, did they hop on the call, or did they hop on a call to Clemson and say, hey, come with us? We have no idea. But as teams are kind of getting their alliances together, we're seeing now there's a possible super conference with SEC, the Big Trend, Pac-12, ACC. They're getting an alliance thing going on. They might have to make a move. So it'll be kind of interesting to see. Their next one will be Georgia Tech again, going into the conference. At number 2, we have Georgia.
Number 2, Georgia.
Okay, now this was kind of interesting. They stayed at number 2, beat UAB 56-7, demolished them. But here's the interesting thing. JT Daniels didn't start. Interesting. So he's not injured. Again, maybe it's kind of what Kirby Stark's trying to do, get some other quarterbacks in there. But Stetson Bennett is a senior, came in and threw up 288 yards. Check this out. Now this is a stat I don't think happens very often. His first 4 passes were touchdown passes, and he had 5 touchdowns for the day. So again, this is what happens when you're supposed to demolish a team. And UAB is actually a pretty good program. So it's unfortunate it had to happen to them, but a 56-7 victory by Georgia is important. It's obviously going to help them. But kind of more importantly, what's great is that a lot of people had a chance to play. And I don't know if you guys understand how important that is. When you're playing, you want that experience. And if you're going to have a chance to get some players some playing time, it's crucial, because if someone goes down, they'll have a chance to have experience. And that's really what you want. In this day and age, you're seeing a lot of play. And even now, when helmets are coming off, guys got to at least take one play off. Well, now you'll have a chance to throw someone in there who's actually had some experience. So I think it's really important that a lot of these schools have had a chance to get their younger players or their non-starters in. Coming from a guy who was on the prep squad and really didn't play at all freshman year, that's pretty important to have younger kids going on to play in the game. So they have South Carolina for the next game. But here's the interesting thing, and we always kind of talk about this. Will it be a Georgia-Alabama in the SEC championship? I think that's going to be a very, very interesting thing. Going on to our number 1 team that I'm sure everyone's going to know because I haven't said it yet is Alabama.
Number 1, Alabama.
I love Alabama's music. That's awesome. Okay, so first thing I'm going to talk about is Bryce Young. Threw up 277 yards. Great. Bryce almost has 600 yards in 2 games. Amazing. Kid did not play that much last year. Mac Jones, who was the guy at Alabama last year, really didn't have a chance to kind of allow Bryce to come in a lot, but look what he's doing. I mentioned Mac Jones. Phil, did you have a chance to kind of see this highlight? It was even though New England lost against Miami, did you see the first touchdown pass that Mac Jones threw?
Oh yeah.
The guy, the receiver he threw it to, gave him the ball and said, man, here's your first, and he threw it back to him like, no, I'm good. What? And he threw it back to him. He's like, what? And Mac Jones passed to somebody else. You kidding me? And his comment after the game was like, well, hopefully this will be, one of many touchdowns, so it's not really a big deal. I know this is college, but can we get him back, please? Because I want that as my quarterback. Are you kidding me? This guy is selfless. I mean, he doesn't want his first touchdown pass in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, Mac Jones, to me, obviously, it's well documented on this network where I had Mac Jones 1B to Trevor, and then number 2 was Justin Fields. Mac Jones, to me, obviously, accuracy, those intangibles, he waited his time, but then the tape didn't lie on it. And I know narratives go, and I think this part of Mac Jones, as Chris is talking about, is that just I'm going to be something greater than the moment type of guy. And I like those guys too. I just think is just an energy about that he gets it. And yeah, that's nice, but I intend to throw a lot more of those. So I don't need that one. You keep it and you remember it.
I mean, how cool was that?
It was really, and it was a great throw because he threw him to the inside to allow him. He saw the defender pressing to that outside shoulder, threw it inside. And, rookie quarterbacks, you could just tell who's got it, who doesn't. You played with a few. So you saw right in practice, Cade McNown didn't have the arm or didn't have the intangibles that was going to be successful in the NFL. I think you and I have talked off the air how high you were on Mac Jones. And I think a lot of these analysts or fanalists or whoever they are kind of go with the school and say, well, no other Alabama quarterbacks were good, so the next one can't. That's not how you do it. That's just not how you do it. And then the other bias was all of the first round talent that was, Waddle and Dante, Smith and so on and so forth. But again, the ball is getting there perfectly on time. And it's just exactly what Bullet said. It really didn't matter. It's one touchdown. I like those types of guys.
I mean, please, I would, in as a team, a guy on that team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you talk about leadership. You want to talk about someone who's. I mean, and here's the thing: you don't see that very often anymore, right? Everything's me. I mean, now we got selfies going on. You score a touchdown, you got to go find the camera and do something. I mean, here's a guy who threw his first touchdown in the NFL, and he doesn't want the ball. And I don't know personally. I mean, the guy could be a jackass. I have no idea, but that shows me that at least he's a leader, right? I mean, I want to play for that guy. I want that guy. I want to be on that guy's team because I know he's going to go out there and give 100% all the time. Just like my guy Cohen with the pop thing, man. Give me Cohen's finger. Give me Mac Jones. We'll go out there. We'll win some games. I got 2 guys on the team.
As long as Nagy ain't calling plays, you'll be great.
You're right. All right, let me finish about Alabama. So here's the thing about Alabama, which I think is great. They know exactly when to schedule and who to schedule, and Saban has his down with science. So the next opponent is Mercer, and it was The next one was Florida, but he had a great rant about Mercer. And I don't know if you had a chance to
I didn't see
check
it.
out.
I got to check it out.
They're asking me at the press conference, hey, you guys play great, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, actually, if you take away, I think they scored in the first half. I think they scored 3 touchdowns in the first half. So he basically broke down the fact that they, in the second half, they only scored 2 touchdowns or something. It was really interesting because he talked about how these guys thought they were great, and he just used the stats from the second half, and he said, at best, we're average. And I was like, damn, you go, coach. I mean, here's a guy who knows how to use the media to his advantage because he knows players. Look at social media, watch the news, do whatever, read their phones, whatever, and find out this information. And Nick is like, hey, in order for us to be successful, we can't rely on the first half of the game. And he gave some great stats, and he was like, "You guys at best were at." I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is terrific." So again, would love to be coached. Although, I do want to draw a comparison. Lou Holtz did the same thing to us often. We were playing Navy, and I forgot who the running back was at Navy, but he was like the best running back in the country. And Lou believed in that, and he threw out some stats like, on every third down when it was 60 degrees or higher, this running back scored 90% of the stuff. I mean, it was just that crazy. And he was able to kind of motivate us to where we're able to kind of go out and compete and beat teams like a Navy or like a Mercer. So being involved with coaches like that is really important because now you have a chance to kind of see what it takes in order to win. And that's why Nick is so successful. And for all those folks out there who are hating on Nick Saban, you're just hating on him because he's so successful. All right, that is my rant for Alabama. All right, you want to go over the...
Let's look at the poll in its whole.
I like that. Yes, I like that. Okay.
There it is.
It's the week 2 of the Super 16 poll show. We have Auburn at 16, 15 UCLA, 14 Stanford, 13 Virginia Tech, 12 Penn State, 11 Notre Dame, 10 Iowa, 9 Oklahoma, 8 Cincinnati, 7 Texas A&M, Ohio State at number 6, Florida number 5, number 4 Oregon, 3 Clemson, 2 Georgia, and number 1 Alabama.
Yes, it's a great poll right there. I like how you got it. Any thought on your Michigan Wolverines? People wanted to know. I know our producer Cherie is a big Go Blue.
All right.
She wants to know how come they're not in your top 16?
Interestingly enough, they were playing a Washington team that they got beat by. Was it Grand Valley? It was like
it was
it was like Little Sisters of the Poor. No, it was
who was it? Wyoming? Was it Wyoming?
Nah, it was somebody.
Hold on, I'll look it up.
Somebody's gonna know. But
hey, that's where your
so
stance
I
is.
wasn't. I mean, they're supposed to beat a team who loses to. Was it?
They lost to Montana.
Thank you.
The Grizz.
Thank you. Again, nothing against Montana. Hey, man, go out there and be a Grizzly. That's great. You had a chance. I mean, that win for them, those guys remember that for the rest of their lives. Okay.
Right.
But on the flip side, Washington, I mean, they got beat by like Montana. So that's the reason why Michigan's not in my top 16 because they beat an opponent. Again, now, as Washington win some games, they may, but they lost to the Grizzlies. So for me, that's and I know my boy Rick is going to be upset with me, but and Rick, I do love you, but This is my poll show.
This is his poll show.
Michigan does not belong on my list because they beat a team that got beat by the Grizzlies. So there you go.
So you're going to have to tune in next week. Michigan, who are they playing this week? Michigan is playing, let's see, Michigan on the fly. Michigan football.
That's impressive.
They are playing Northern Illinois. So they're probably not going to move up in the Zorich poll.
That's so
I'll
bad.
tell you that.
That's so bad. Phil, you're terrible, man.
I'm just being honest. That's what we do here.
You're terrible.
Anyway, if you have a quick question for Chris about his poll at college football, throw it in there. But Chris, it's time for your top 5 matchups this week.
We really, really love the top 5 matchups because we actually did really well last week. We talked about Iowa State. That was a big game. Colorado, Texas A&M, great game to watch. Very instrumental in this poll. Stanford, USC, had no idea that was going to be a good game. Washington, Michigan, we had that on our list. And, of course, we had Ohio State and Oregon. So that was huge. But this week, we have another top 5 matchups. First one, Auburn, Penn State. Mentioned that before. Hate playing at Penn State. It's going to be an interesting game. I think the speed may give Penn State some trouble. I'm going to save this one for the next one, or for last. Clemson, Georgia Tech. Again, Clemson now is going to roll into their ACC schedule. They should go undefeated. Cincinnati at Indiana. I think this is going to be, believe Indiana, they were supposed to have a good team this year, hadn't had a chance to see any of their games yet, but this should be a no-brainer for Cincinnati. Luke Fickell's still there and not at SC. South Carolina, Georgia. Again, now we're now in the conference games. Georgia needs to demolish South Carolina. Last game, Alabama, Florida. Okay, this is a game, Phil. This is a game I think is going to be exciting because you're going to have number 1 Alabama and a number 5 Florida team. They played Miami the first game of the season. They were 16. Now they have a chance to kind of come in here and play a top 5 team. I think this is going to be their biggest test so far, and probably will be their toughest opponent outside of the SEC championship.
Yeah, this is where, where, as I call it, you find out who Florida is. It's always that measuring stick going up against Alabama. And anybody that's saying anything different, they're just lying to you, because who's picking Florida to win? It's an upset special alert going on. That's everything. Alabama is right now like the New York Yankees were when I was a kid. It's like the evil empire that they just have so much talent, and you combine talent with a guy that understands how to use personnel and accountability and preparation and everything about what he did that Chris is talking about.
Coaching staff. He's thinking guys. And people are, and again, I just hate kind of this hatred they have toward Nick Saban, Alabama, but he works. He works at it.
Yes.
He works. He gets coaches that folks didn't think. He had Butch Jones on that staff. He had Sarkisian. He had all these guys who had some issues in the past, had a chance to get in there. Sarkisian now is the head coach of Texas after being the offensive coordinator at Alabama.
After messing up twice, too. He rekindled because he got fired at USC. He was drunk on the job, if you remember that.
Absolutely.
At USC. And then he was with the Falcons in the NFL. He got let go there. And then really, I believe Nick took him under his wing. Listen, a great coach is a great coach. Everyone could see that. I think, to your point, it is people need to appreciate. I don't want to take away your vitriol for Alabama or whatever, but I think you really have to appreciate the fundamental teaching and understanding that Nick Saban puts on his team each and every week. It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. And that separates the men from the boys, as we say, on the TTNL network. But yeah, that's going to be a huge game. And I know you're a big fan of the Florida coach. So this is going to be interesting to see this transpire. This is week 2 on the Super 16 poll show with Chris Zorich. I know Chris has had a little internet trouble like Ohio State had in their home. Oh, but we're going to fix it. We're going to get it. So some of you are asking, don't worry. I'm just keeping it transparent. We're going to get this all fixed up right. Trust me, I've been there before, as everybody knows, with the internet issues, and finally was able to break through like your boy Refrigerator Perry, even though people hate that Walter didn't get the ball at the goal line, but Fridge got in and scored. That my internet was able. So we're going to fix that for Chris. Another amazing show, Chris. One guy had a quick question about
absolutely.
Michigan State. Now another minute. They want State. Mel Tucker.
Okay. Yes.
Has taken over. Former defensive coordinator here. Cherie shaking her head. Mel Tucker taken over, left Colorado, and has really took on this football team. They are playing good football here at Michigan State. Why not them?
Again, haven't seen who their opponents were, but I will definitely look at that. So they have not been on my radar, but I do have some final thoughts.
That is where we're going to go before we end this show, to Chris Zorich's final thoughts.
Thank you,
Chris.
Sir. So the great celebrations that they've had for 9/11, I think it's absolutely terrific. There are a lot of teams out there, a lot of football teams that really put that front and center. And when I say them, the victims, kind of honoring the first responders of 9/11. I personally think we should kind of treat that, instead of doing it every 20 years, every 10 years, let's do it once a year. One home game a year, celebrate the folks who perished in 9/11, and let's bring awareness, right? And people are like, oh, well, let's keep it every 5-10 years. We don't have to be remembered of it every year. I think there were some great tributes. I think it was Arizona State. They had kind of a shadow of the Twin Towers. I thought on the field that was great. And at the end of the day, we got folks. I'm going to go hard on Oregon now. We got folks like Oregon that change up their uniform every week. Okay, well, instead of changing up every week, let's dedicate one game, maybe around 9/11. If it doesn't fall on Saturday, you have it around 9/11. Just have a 9/11 game, and have each team throughout the country do a uniform, do a helmet, do something to kind of honor that day in our history, because we are still learning from that, right? I was just watching a special, I think it was on ABC, things I never heard of. I mean, they had recordings that they had played for the first time. I mean, it was so heart-wrenching that I think that's something that we should be able to acknowledge every year, not just every 10 years, every 20 years. So we got a whole bunch of money in college football. Let's take some time out and dedicate one game a year. Every football program, put together cool jersey, cool uniform, cool helmet, and go out there and honor the folks from 9/11. Phil, those were my final thoughts.
I love it, Chris. I mean, when you talk about it, I hit home. I'll tell you a quick story. I told Chris I was driving back to Long Island over by Hofstra, where a lot of my family live in Long Island, and the traffic to go over the Throgs Neck Bridge was crazy. So long story short, me and my wife, my cousin says, why don't you come over for dinner after the party? And we were chilling there watching Iowa State and the later games. And then we're going to go head back. So my sons are little, and on the skipped a key part on the Throgsneck Bridge. It's bumper to bumper, Chris. They're doing road work, and they're going to one lane. So it's an hour and 15 minutes. But when we got on the bridge, you could feel this thing moving like like my son goes, what is that? I go to my wife. I'm like, oh my God, the bridge is moving. Like you could feel it shaking. And I'm getting nervous. So my son says, are we going to die? Because this is moving. And so I ain't going back to Throgsneck, I said. So we go to Whitestone back home at night. And there's no road work there. But we look out to the point of 9/11. And you could see the city. And it was a gorgeous night.
Huge beams.
2 huge beams shooting up in the air. And I'm going, honey, Steph, get the picture. You got to take a picture. You couldn't even. I got goosebumps, Chris.
Wow.
I got goosebumps because it was so. Oh my God. As Tom said, that is our generation's Pearl Harbor.
Sure.
Like we never thought it would hit home like that. And my uncle worked at the tower, the second tower, and he just luckily didn't take an overtime shift. He worked third shift. The boss said, hey, you want to stay for overtime, Dennis? He's like, I got to bring my son to the heart doctor today. I can't. He left. He went home and slept, and his wife's calling. Everyone thought he took the overtime, and no, but he lost so many friends in that. It's a sad, but something I totally agree with Chris and what Sharif said. Like we salute service in the NFL. We wear pink cleats for breast cancer awareness. I really believe Chris is really hitting a home run here. And I think that part in our history should never be overlooked. And it should come up around that date because it's not going to fall on a Saturday all the time. I couldn't say it better.
And the thing is, I mean, we're like you were talking about, we honor other things, right? And if we can throw a uniform together because it's a rivalry, we can throw a uniform together because it's a special game. I mean, like Notre Dame's Shamrock Series, right? If we can put together a uniform for that, I can put together, a game for 9/11. I think. I mean, why not? Just make it like the NCAA should make just like a national day in sports. Because what we found was those sporting events, any football, baseball, or whatever it is.
Yes.
Those things bring us together, right?
Exactly.
And that's why I think it's so vital to athletics and our society, right?
Totally.
When things aren't going right, we need that. We need to stay sane. And so, granted, there was some very, very touching moments, but at the end of the day, let's not forget,
Never forget. Never, ever forget. Totally agree with Chris. In this society today, there's got to be things that bring us together. And that, real quick, my last point, I felt like the movie when the aliens came down and attacked us and everybody put everything aside, countries battling, put everything aside, because now we had one common enemy. And I think our society, sometimes we need sports to take us away from our lives, take us away from things, but also these big moments in our lives historically, whether it be JFK's assassination, Pearl Harbor, and all these things that make this country stand to where it is that we take for granted each and every day, whether we're going to work, on the drive, or playing on your video games, whatever you're doing, there's somebody that lost a life sacrificing that heritage, their family, for you to enjoy whatever it is that you enjoy. And I think there's a lot of power in that, in what Chris Zorich is saying and preaching. I love it too. Next week we'll be back. you got to be watching these games on Saturdays. I'm talking all of the college football. Chris Zorich takes it all in. As he said, there's no bias. He keeps it 100. He moves teams up and down the board. Next week, 8:30 Monday, he'll be back breaking down these college teams. This week on TTNL, we'll have Dion. How did I lose her name just now? Jesus.
Say my name, see?
Oh, son of a gun. Dion from ABC. Does Cherie, you know her name? Why am I drawing a blank here?
Wow.
I know.
So
it is.
Yes, on the show. It's terrible, man. See
that? Made me feel. Dion Miller. I don't know how I lost.
Oh my God! Yeah, she's from Channel 5, man. She's from Chicago. Yes, tell her I said hi.
Dion Miller. I will tell her that I messed up.
She's at ABC. I'm sorry, she is at ABC. Yeah. You're right.
She's at ABC now. Dion Miller. She'll be live this week, Wednesday, on Keeping It 100, breaking down Matt Nagy's Bears, the politics of football. Should Justin Fields be starting? Andy Dalton, play calls, all of it. Discipline. Eddie Jackson, social media stances versus tackling stances. It's all going to be there on the big show. Keep it at 100 this Wednesday night. Tune in. And again, tonight, week 2 of Chris Zorich's The Super 16 Poll Show, brought to you by the National Football Foundation, the College Football Hall of Fame, which, oh, by the way, Chris Zorich, congratulations on becoming a College Football Hall of Famer, also a 3-time All-American, Walter Camp Football All-American. This guy was a great football player. Don't let anybody tell you different. And the Football Writers Association. So TTNL Network, we're so proud to have you on. Another great show. We're going to get everything cleaned up and ready to go. I love you.
First was my power. Now it's my internet. So
I know. But we're going to get it. Ron G has already texted me. He's got the remedy. He's got the remedy.
Sounds good.
He texts because he cares. Next week, we'll be back 8:30 every Monday night, breaking down these teams, where they're at. Jump in the chat. Chris did a great job tonight, according to my sources, answering your questions and giving his analysis. College football. There's nothing like it. It's tradition, it's passion, and it's the greatest game in the world. Thanks for watching the Super 16 Poll Show with Chris Zorich. Like, subscribe, and comment. This has been a special presentation of the Tape Never Lies Network. Performance over